John McFarlane. I'm the President and CEO of London Health Sciences Foundation, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to our virtual announcement on behalf of the Foundation. Today we celebrate a transformational gift to the London Health Sciences Center's Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer from the estate of the late Tom Allan and from the Tom and Sue Allan Family Fund, which is a fund within the London Community Foundation. This gift will have a significant impact on countless patients for years to come. Although we are not together in person, I am grateful we can come together virtually to recognize the generosity and kindness that Sue and her family have displayed with the creation of a patient health facilitator role at the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer. As we make this announcement, we'd like to take a moment to honor Tom, Sue's late husband, who passed away from pancreatic cancer 17 years ago. It was with his memory at heart that this donation was made and the new patient health facilitator role at the Baker Center was created. I'd like to take a quick moment to welcome a few special guests who are joining us today. First of all, of course, our guest of honor, Sue Allan. Without her and her daughters, Margaret and Allison, we would not be gathered here today. We also have valued friends of the Foundation and integral members of the LHSC family and the Baker Center here with us. We're going to hear from Dr. Jackie Schleifer-Taylor, who's our interim president and CEO of the hospital. Our panelists from the Baker Center include Dr. Ken Leslie, surgical oncologist, Dr. Stephen Welch, medical oncologist and director, Dr. Chris Pinn, lead translational scientist, Dr. Dania Perlicia, clinical research coordinator, and Nancy Gregg, our patient health facilitator. Of course, we have a special guest as well, our moderator, Julie Atchison from CTV, and she'll be joining us in a few moments. And we have LHSC physicians, researchers, and staff who are joining us virtually, including those from the London Regional Cancer Program. It's great to have you all with us today. Today is an exceptionally important day for patient care at our hospital and the Baker Center. It is through donor support that we're able to support initiatives like the newly created patient healthcare facilitator role that will have a big impact on our patients. On behalf of the Foundation, we'd like to express our tremendous gratitude to the family and the estate of the late Tom Allan for their generosity and hope for a better future for patients with pancreatic cancer. Sue, because you choose to care, patients at the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer will have additional support through their cancer journey to help ease the burden they are facing. One of the greatest gifts we can give is hope. And today, a gift of $1 million from the family and estate of the late Tom Allan is creating hope for patients with pancreatic cancer as they navigate their cancer journey. This transformational gift will create and sustain a new role at the Baker Center, a patient health facilitator for the next 8 to 10 years. This new role will help patients navigate their cancer journey from diagnosis to treatment to recovery and help alleviate some of the burden during this overwhelming time. Through the inspiration of the late Rick Baker, Sue wanted to help patients with pancreatic cancer as she saw firsthand how her husband suffered with the devastating disease. I'd now like to ask Sue to share a few words at this time.
Hello, my name is Sue Allan. I'm here today to make the announcement of my gift of $1 million to the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer. The gift has funded the position of a patient health facilitator at the center. My late husband Tom and I believed in supporting things that benefited those in our community. We had begun making philanthropic gifts shortly before his illness and subsequent death. I continued this gifting practice after his death, focusing on areas of healthcare that my family has experienced. The London Health Sciences Foundation Impact magazine recently featured an article on the Baker Center that made me decide to explore making a major gift to that center. At the time of Tom's diagnosis, there was very little information available to patients and their families to help them understand pancreatic cancer its treatment options, and the life expectancy statistics. At the time of the diagnosis, my daughter Allison was a postdoctoral breast cancer research scientist and was able to interpret the very technical information that Tom and I got from the surgeon and the oncologist. That was a huge role for her, but a very valuable one for Tom and me. It is my hope that this new position of patient health facilitators at the Baker Center will help patients and families, as well as Allison was able to help Tom and me. Tom was a great guy, full of life and purpose, who became very overwhelmed and discouraged once he received the diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. I know he would agree that a patient health facilitator will make a huge difference in the care of pancreatic cancer patients. It is my hope that others who receive a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer will have the support they need to deal with the decision-making tasks that will be the major focus in their lives in the months that follow. In making this gift, I am confident that I can make a difference to others who find themselves faced with the challenges we faced 18 years ago. I was impressed that London Health Sciences Foundation presented various funding options to me as they endeavored to gain a better understanding of what my gifting goals were for the Baker Center gift. As I said earlier, my philosophy for philanthropic giving is to make a difference in an area that our family has had experience with. To Baker Center patients, I wish you courage during this difficult journey and know that the patient health facilitator will help you. Giving to healthcare has become very important to me and my family. There are so many healthcare needs in the community. I hope others will make financial gifts a priority as my family and I have done.
Thank you for sharing with us, Sue. You are a true difference maker, and through your generosity and that of your family, we're going to enable patients to thrive and to heal at LHSC. So thank you so much. It's now my pleasure to welcome our hospital's interim president and CEO, Dr. Jackie Schleifer-Taylor, to bring some greetings. Jackie?
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, everyone. As John mentioned, I'm Dr. Jackie Schleifer-Taylor, interim president and CEO of London Health Sciences Center. I am so delighted on behalf of our staff and physicians, and more importantly, our patients and families, to be part of this important event today. Through the exceptional generosity of donors, LHSC is able to provide the personalized care and world-class research our community, our patients, our families need. Specifically, we're able to provide that when they need it the most. For this, we are truly, truly grateful. As the major acute tertiary academic center for London and the entire Southwest region, LHSC is dedicated to achieving and exceeding the highest standards of care. We simply could not do this without donor support. A crucial and critical element to enhancing the standard of care at LHSC is donor support. Without donor funding programs like the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer and positions like the Patient Health Facilitator, this would not be possible. It is through the remarkable generosity and ongoing support of community that we can continue to play the vital role and better the future for our patients. I'm incredibly proud to be a part of the exceptional team here at LHSC, a community that continues to push forward to help one another during these difficult times. Sue, it is an honor to be here today to celebrate your late husband and this transformational gift. From the bottom of my heart to the estate of the late Tom Allan, and from the Tom and Sue Allan Family Fund, a fund within the London Community Foundation, we're so grateful. On behalf of London Health Sciences Center, Thank you for your generosity and drive to change patient care for those suffering with pancreatic cancer. Without you, this could not have happened. I'd like to invite Julie Acheson from CTV to begin the panel discussion, and thank you again.
Hi everyone, thank you so much Jackie, and thank you to everyone joining us at home. I'm Julie Acheson, and it's a pleasure to be with you today, and I look forward to leading us through the upcoming panel discussion. Today we will have several speakers discussing pancreatic cancer and the importance of the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer and the newly created patient health facilitator role within the program. I would now like to invite Dr. Stephen Welch to join me on screen to kick off our panel discussion. Dr. Stephen Welch is a medical oncologist at the London Regional Cancer Program at LHSC and also the chair of medical oncology and a medical director of the Clinical Cancer Research Unit. Dr. Stephen Welch is also the director of the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer. Welcome, Stephen. Thank you for joining us and kicking off our discussion. To get things started, would you be able to explain what pancreatic cancer is and why it is one of the deadliest cancers?
Sure. Thank you, Julie. There's a lot to unpack in that question. So what is pancreatic cancer? And pancreatic cancer is a little harder to explain to people than, say, lung cancer or breast cancer, because pretty much everybody knows where a lung and a breast are. The pancreas requires a little bit almost like an anatomy 101 lesson. Your pancreas is a really important organ in digestion. It sits right in behind the stomach in your upper abdomen, like right about there. Right. Just a little bit of statistics, I say, some sobering statistics regarding pancreatic cancer, because it doesn't get a lot of attention, but it really should. Canadian cancer statistics were released just recently, and expected 6,700 people are expected to be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in Canada this year. In our region, we expect about 200, 300 patients per year. That doesn't rank in the top 10 of number of most common cancers. It's number 11. That said, pancreatic cancer is expected to be the third leading cause of death in Canada. It's an estimated, again, Canadian cancer statistics suggest 5,600 people dying from pancreatic cancer each year. So that number is pretty close to the number of people diagnosed with the disease. That is very sobering. And more sobering, although many people feel or get a sense that pancreatic cancer is a disease of people who are older, 11% of all deaths from pancreatic cancer occur in people under the age of 60. So why is it such a deadly cancer? It is a very difficult one to diagnose, and certainly a difficult one to treat. Our ability to cure this disease really has not changed very much in the last 20 years. There has been some improvement with chemotherapy treatments, with surgical techniques, but we've not seen nearly the advances that we've seen with other cancer types, immunotherapies, targeted therapies, surgical techniques. We haven't seen the same improvements in pancreatic cancer, but there is certainly reason for optimism, which we can talk about.
And what are some of the challenges with diagnosing pancreatic cancer?
Sure. Early detection of pancreatic cancer is very difficult. We call it the silent killer. Early warning signals are very difficult to tease out because of where this cancer is located, very centrally with a lot of things that are going on in the body in that location. Symptoms progress very quickly with this disease, taking someone feeling very well to be feeling very unwell in a short period of time. In order to make the diagnosis of this cancer, it is very difficult. It requires techniques, endoscopic ultrasound, image-guided biopsies. These are all challenging to coordinate, and they are precious resources. So it's a difficult diagnosis just based on logistics.
Can you tell me about the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer and why it's so important for patients with this type of cancer?
Sure. All of these statistics we've known about for a long time. And so, we have a choice to make. We either, accept this, or we roll up our sleeves and do our best to do something about it. And this is what we're doing with the Baker Center. The Baker Center was formed. It's committed to improve the lives and outcomes for patients in the London region diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. It was formed to carry on the legacy of Rick Baker, who fought valiantly against stage 4 pancreatic cancer for almost 5 years. And we're going to hear a little bit of his story a little bit later. With help of gracious funding from the Baker Center, our committed group of surgeons, oncologists, allied health professionals have set up strategies, initiatives, infrastructure with a solitary aim of improving lives of patients diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. One of our goals is to reduce the time from suspicion of pancreatic cancer to a treatment plan for pancreatic cancer and bring that time, which prior to the start of the Baker Center could take months. We want to bring that down to 2 weeks for all of our patients. That involves cooperation and coordination at multiple steps, but it doesn't stop at the diagnosis. The optimal treatment strategies are complex. The healthcare needs of these patients are also complex. It requires a team approach, and newer treatments and better understanding of the disease are critical. And so this is why we're investing in translational research, clinical trials to get to better for patients with pancreatic cancer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Welch, for joining us. We appreciate your insight today. Joining me next is Dr. Ken Leslie. Dr. Leslie is a general and surgical oncologist at the London Regional Cancer Program at LHSC and also the chair and chief of general surgery. Dr. Ken Leslie is also a professor for the Division of General Surgery at Western University. Welcome, Ken, and thank you so much for joining me. Can you explain the surgical and treatment challenges with pancreatic cancer?
Sure. Thanks, Julie, for having us today. So we've got a group of 5 surgeons that treat pancreatic cancer here in London, and Cancer Care Ontario considers us a surgical center for excellence for pancreatic surgery. All the pancreatic surgery in Ontario is only done at pancreatic centers of excellence, and we're glad to be one of them. And we serve all of southwestern Ontario. So as Dr. Welch just said, unfortunately, a lot of the patients show up with advanced disease and are not surgical patients. Only about 20% of the patients that we see are operative candidates at the time of diagnosis. Those that undergo the surgery undergo what we call a Whipple procedure. Now, this is a really large operation. It removes half the pancreas, all the duodenum, half the common bile duct, and the gallbladder. It takes us just around 6 to 7 hours to do the operation. So it's a really big undertaking that goes on. The patient typically is in hospital for about 7 days, and it takes a good 2 to 3 months for full recovery. It's a big operation, carries about a 2% mortality or death rate, and complications are very common in this group of patients, with about 35% having postoperative complications. So it's a really big undertaking for these patients that they go. We're really pleased in the last 2 years to be embracing minimally invasive or laparoscopic surgery. We're only one of 3 centers in Canada that offers a laparoscopic Whipple procedure, and our team's very proud of this success and these surgical advances.
So you mentioned that then that is the standard of care. So how is the Baker Center changing that? Is that what you just mentioned, the new procedure?
That's one of the areas. I think the Baker Center has allowed us, as Dr. Welch said, to bring through a multidisciplinary team. So the majority of our patients enter our system through what we call the CLIPS Central Referral Program. That CLIPS program we run out of the outpatient surgery clinic at University Hospital. And it's that part that Dr. Welch was talking about, that efficient, quicker diagnostics to get the diagnosis of a pancreatic cancer. Once they're diagnosed with that pancreatic cancer, they're presented at our multidisciplinary rounds every Monday and Dr. Welsh and I were just on that at 1 o'clock before this meeting. And then after the presentation, the patient comes to a multidisciplinary clinic that is at the Baker Center on Monday afternoons. The Baker Center has really allowed us to bring the team together to evaluate the patients and get that specific treatment plan for that individual patient. Over the last couple of years, we've been really aggressive about switching our treatment modalities. In the past, they used to get surgery followed by traditional chemotherapy. Now, most of our patients get what I call the chemo sandwich. They get chemotherapy up front, surgery, followed by more chemotherapy. And we really believe that this approach and being more multidisciplinary has improved the outcomes of our patients.
The impact of a center like the Baker Center on Southwestern Ontario, to the ability really just to help so many patients.
Yeah, it's been huge. And as Dr. Welsh said, and I said, it's a much more complex diagnosis and treatment plan than before. There's a lot of complex investigations, a lot of complex decision-making, a lot of complex treatment plans that have to come up. And having the donation by the Allan family for this patient health facilitator will really assist all the patients going through this complex diagnosis and cancer treatment path, back and forth between the cancer clinic, chemo, surgery, radiation, passing the patient back and forth. This is what's really going to be helpful with this donation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leslie, for joining us today.
Okay, have a good day. Thank you.
You too. Joining me next is Danielle Porplicia. Danielle is the Clinical Research Coordinator for the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer and works with the translational and clinical staff to facilitate clinical trials. Welcome, Danielle, and thank you for joining us. Can you explain what the patient healthcare facilitator role is?
Thank you, Julie. So the role of the patient health facilitator is to provide support and coordination for all aspects of the patient's journey through the Baker Center. So this is someone who is the first point of contact and provides really that key communication link between the patient and their various healthcare providers. So they really become that go-to individual. The patient health facilitator also offers education and coordinates any resources that the patient may need. So with that, they really provide that sort of longitudinal support for the patients and their families coming through the Baker Center.
Can you share what the current patient process is at the Baker Center and how the patient facilitator role will improve the patient experience?
Sure. So as we sort of heard from Dr. Leslie and Dr. Welch, we do see patients from a very large catchment area all over Southwestern Ontario. So once they enter the program, go through the CLIPS referral process and our multidisciplinary sort of weekly meetings, they are seen at the Baker Clinic by, as was mentioned, a very multidisciplinary team of our medical oncologists, surgeons, dietitians, nurses, and research team. And I think that's really the strength of the center, is to have all of those specialties together, collaborating on an optimized care plan for the patients. So in that respect, the treatment and diagnosis is very, very streamlined and expedited. And clinically, this is ideal, but I think, as you can imagine, from a patient perspective, this can be a very overwhelming experience. And I think that's really where the benefit of the patient health facilitator really comes in. I sort of see the patient health facilitator as sort of the optimization of the program, both clinically and from a patient support experience.
You mentioned the multidisciplinary approach to pancreatic cancer treatment. Now, can you explain what the role of research and clinical trials will play in this approach? And really, why is it so important and what impact they'll have on patients at the Baker Center?
Yeah, so a lot of the sort of life-extending treatments that we have today have come from previous research, whether that's lab-based translational research or clinical trials. So I see research really as the driving force that keeps, moving the field forward. And, we can always improve, always find new treatments, new biomarkers, and the research and clinical trials really allows us to do that. And, because of donor funding, we are able to integrate the research studies into the program. So that means offering genetic sequencing to all new patients coming through the center, as well as novel treatment options. So the research really leads to improved outcomes when we can give the oncologists and surgeons, more tools, more options, and, overall better treatment options for the patients.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for joining us.
Thank you.
Joining me next is Nancy Gregg. Nancy is a new addition to the Baker Center team as the first ever patient health facilitator. Nancy comes with extensive patient experience from her previous role with London's regional cancer program at LHSC. Nancy, first of all, congratulations on your new position within the Baker Center. Since you're a new addition, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and your previous experience that will help you with this new position?
Thanks, Julie. Welcome. So my background is I've been an oncology nurse for the last 23 years. The first 16 years, I was a primary care nurse at the London Regional Cancer Centre, providing support to the patients going through the medical oncology program as far as chemotherapy. So I was in charge of their care plan, organizing their care treatments, providing support to them and education where need be. I was their main contact that they could call throughout their treatment journey. The last 7 years, I've worked still with the cancer program, but as a patient navigator, working at the other end of the spectrum where patients have a suspicion of cancer, and we are working through testing and investigations to see if they do indeed have a diagnosis of some cancer. From there, we would then, I would coordinate their care to get them to either onto surgery or to the cancer center. So in that role, I provided the patients and families with the support needed to go through the diagnostic phase.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. Now, even though you're a new addition to this team, what is your vision for the patient health facilitator role?
Right. So I really want to assist the patients and their family as they go through this cancer journey. As many have said before me, it can be quite a frightening and difficult time in their lives. And I want to be able to support and organize all the services they need. I want to be the person they can call. They know there's someone on the other end of the line that they can call and reach and discuss their concerns. At the end of the day, for any patients coming through the Baker Center, I hope that they feel heard. I hope they feel supported, and that we help them as best as we could to go through the cancer journey.
Nancy, we've heard a lot of great information about the Baker Center, the integration of research and clinical trials, and your new position. Each of these, of course, playing a vital role in providing the best care possible to patients with pancreatic cancer. Can you share why donor funding, like the transformational gift from the family and estate of Tom Allan, is so important to improving patient care?
Right. I think this generous donation by the Allan family today is just that they've been able to create and this role for patients. I think that it's allowed there to be a dedicated person for those patients and families who are frightened and going through a very difficult time. I think the care for pancreatic patients, as you have heard, is very complex, and to have a point person that you can call on, who you know is organizing the next step for you, because there's a lot going between surgery, cancer center, social services in the community, patient care services in the community. There's such an amount of things that need to be organized for a patient and a family. I think this generous donation has allowed this role to be created so that these patients have someone that they can feel they can call and is always there on the other end of the line.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and congratulations on your new role. I'm definitely know that it will help all of the patients and really creating that caring phone call all the time to be with them.
Yeah.
Up next, we have Dr. Chris Pinn. Dr. Pinn is the lead transitional scientist for the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer and a professor in the departments of psychology and pharmacology, pediatrics, and oncology at Western University. Dr. Chris Pinn is also a scientist at the Lawson Health Research Institute and Children's Health Research Institute. Welcome, Chris, and thank you for joining me.
Well, thanks, Julie.
We've
I'm glad
just
to be
heard.
here.
We've just heard from Danielle on the role of the research and clinical trials play on treatment options for patients. And Nancy shared the importance of donor funding to support the research and clinical trials being done. I've been told you're working on some unique research with regards to pancreatic cancer. Can you share what you're working on?
Sure, I'd be happy to. One of the things that I think has become apparent over the last 15 years, especially with the genetic analysis, is how every patient is unique. And so because of that, a lot of times research is focused on understanding that uniqueness. And in the past, we've been able to take portions of the tumor and essentially look at those tumors and try to see the differences. More recently, in the last 5 years, we've started to develop what are called living biobanks, where we actually take a portion of the tumor and we put it into a tissue culture dish and see how those tumor cells differ between patients and how they respond to therapy. So what we're doing that's unique is that we're taking those samples at the very earliest time of diagnosis. So most people, and this includes groups in Toronto and Montreal, who are the lead pancreatic groups in Canada, they look at surgical resections. What we do is we take samples from endoscopy. So this is right at the time of diagnosis. And we grow those cells in a dish, and then we can actually treat them with either new therapies or established therapies or combinations and see how they respond. And because we're doing it at such an early time point, the time frame of which we can maybe inform the patients is reasonable. We can actually potentially tell the physicians, this is the type of therapy that a patient will respond to, and this is the type of therapy a patient won't respond to.
Wow, that's some incredible work. How is your research linked to the work being done at the Verspeten Clinical Genome Center?
Right. So the Verspeten Center is really focused on genomic analysis, so understanding the genetics. And we've already heard this from a couple of people, how genetics is important for the way pancreatic cancer progresses. And so understanding the genetics of a person is incredibly important, and understanding the genetics of the tumor cells is also very important. Well, we study something in addition to that. It's called epigenetics. So if you think of genetics or DNA as the blueprint of a cell, epigenetics is really how that blueprint is read. And that's affected by the environment. And so there will be changes based on an exposure a patient may have, both to the environment, but also to the therapy that's going to change the epigenetic program. So what we can do is we can actually, in a global sense, we can actually look at the genome, so the genetics, and the epigenome and the epigenetics using the Verspeten facility to do the sequencing for us. And we can do that, as I said, at a patient-specific level.
And what do you hope to accomplish with your research in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think the obvious thing is that we're hoping that a patient comes in, we can develop this living biobank or living tumor from them, and within a couple of months be able to test to see how they're going to respond, so that they aren't put on the wrong therapy first, or that they're given maybe the most novel therapies going forward. But the other thing that's important, and this is where these funds make a huge difference, is it allows people in London, the researchers and the clinicians in London, to collaborate with those other centers. And so because of the funds that we've been provided, we've been able to collaborate with researchers and physicians in Toronto, at the Mayo Clinic, at the Henry Ford Institute in Michigan, and really work as a team, because working in this in isolation is not going to solve the problem. It has to be done both nationally and internationally to actually reduce the effects or reduce the mortality of pancreatic cancer in the patient population.
Thank you so much, Dr. Crispin, for sharing your time with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'd now like to welcome back Dr. Stephen Welch to close out our panel discussion. Dr. Welch, can you tell us the results you would personally like to see from the Baker Center and the new patient health facilitator role? And what impact do you think the patient health facilitator will have on the community?
Well, first, Julie, I want to share my sincerest thanks to Sue Allan and the Allan family for their incredible show of generosity that makes this position at the Baker Center possible. I think that this is a key cog in the wheel, and everyone met Nancy, and I hope in just a few minutes there, you can see how she's the right person for the job. Really, what I would like to see in the patient health facilitator is fostering an early connection with the patient. I think that patients diagnosed with this terrible disease are a lot of emotions going through, sadness, fear, and having that early connection is critical. Having an individual to coordinate care and to have that continuity of care, because as Dr. Leslie and I have described, patient's journey often will go from discipline to discipline, from surgery to medical to radiation oncology, can be confusing. And so having one continuous voice is very helpful. And certainly we also treat patients with pancreatic cancer from across southwestern Ontario. So they may be receiving their care in multiple institutions as well. So there's a lot of complexity of care there. And so having one individual to be the rock for these patients, I think is critical. What I'm hoping in future too is I think there's a fair bit of education required in primary care and to the public that I think that the patient health facilitator could actually help to foster in terms of, what to be looking for in terms of early symptoms, how to get patients to the right care. So certainly publicizing the Baker Center and the CLIPS program as the place to have patients go when there's a suspicion of this disease.
What is your goal for the Baker Center? You've mentioned a few things, but over the next 5 to 10 years, what would you like to see happening at the Baker Center and moving forward?
Sure. So, I think that over the next 5 to 10 years, really what I see at the Baker Center is an ongoing effort for quality improvement, quality assurance. We don't want to give lip service to this. We want to demonstrate our successes, measure the time from diagnosis to treatment, and make sure that we're sticking to our word, and to also make sure that the patient voice is heard, so that patients can be involved in our evolving process. So that's not just a 5-10 year thing. That's a continuous thing for the future. I think Dr. Pinn said it quite right, that, and I want to echo some of the things that he said. Really, where I want to see the Baker Center and pancreatic cancer treatment in London, Ontario, we need to be on the map. These are Rick Baker's words. The fight against pancreatic cancer is not going to be won and lost at any single institution. MD Anderson is not going to solve this problem. Mayo Clinic is not going to solve this problem. London, Ontario is not going to solve this problem in isolation. So networking, making sure that the achievements that we're making are appreciated, not just locally, not just nationally, but internationally, so that we can engage as a network with people dedicated with similar goals of making making the lives of pancreatic cancer and outcomes of patients with pancreatic cancer better. That's what we need to achieve. We'll achieve that through our translational research, our clinical trials, and we can measure that success through number of publications and presentations, et cetera. We're also keen on training the next generation of doctors and scientists passionate about treating this disease. So those are all the things that we're going to be looking for in the next 5 to 10 years and beyond for the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer.
It's an exciting time. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Welch.
Thank you, Julie.
And that wraps up our Q&A portion of our panel discussion for today. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for providing their insights on the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer, and of course the new patient health facilitator role that was generously funded by the family and estate of the late Tom Allan. This is an incredibly exciting day for pancreatic cancer patient care, and I am honored to have been a part of this announcement. At this point, we would like to share a short video about Rick Baker and the inspiration behind the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer.
Rick was a real smart man. He was quirky and kind of funny, and he always had this annoying habit of always being right. It just sometimes drive us crazy because we'd all kind of look at each other and go, yeah, he was right again.
He was the type of person that you could trust no matter what situation you were in. He was always that person that could be that rock.
We took up cycling in 2012. And when Rick catches a bug, Rick catches a bug. So we got ourselves some bikes.
He just really loved to get outside, get moving, see beautiful locations. And he saw that I started to take a liking to it. And I think when he saw that I did, he just wanted me to enjoy it as well. Something that brought us all joy.
He was losing weight and started to get some stomach and back kind of pain. He eventually got in for a CT scan, and on February 16th of 2016, he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. It took time to digest. It took time. We had a number of sleepless nights. We thought, how are we going to tell the kids?
The only way to really describe it is shock or like numbness, you know, and it takes some time for like it to actually settle in.
Rick Baker was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in the spring of 2016. Unfortunately, that is a terminal diagnosis, and the life expectancy is roughly 6 months.
He wasn't happy with the 6 to 12 months. He says, I've got to do better than this. So he began chemotherapy, which is one of the standard treatments here. And during that, we searched the world. Our doctors supported us here. Might have thought we were a little bit crazy, but Rick was resourceful, and they appreciated that, and that this was something he needed to do, wanted to do.
Rick Baker was a unique mixture of risk-taking, motivation, and resource. He came back to London with a wealth of experience of how other cancer centers do things. You know, soon enough we started to talk about the creation of the Baker Center as his legacy, to bring some of what he saw to London.
They were inspired, and we started talking, and Rick said, we can do better here. We can bring better treatments to the patients here. He tried a couple more therapies, but things were getting harder and harder for him to tolerate. So everything they were trying, they had to do in such low doses that it really wasn't encouraging any kind of response. And he tried one last therapy in September 2nd of 2020, and it was too much for him, and 20 days later, we lost him.
Right now, the survival rate, 5-year survival rate for pancreatic cancer is 10%. And that's dismal. That's the worst of all the major cancers.
So the goals of the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer overall are to improve the lives of patients diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
In a short period of time, we've seen a huge change in how we treat our pancreatic cancer patients and how it's improved their outcomes. Without that initial funding, we wouldn't be where we are today. We'd still be in our old system.
Donor funding is critical to our mission and our program. I would say positions like mine would not be possible without donor funding. We also have clinical trials that are 100% donor funded, which gives the patients, increased treatment options and enhanced care pathways that really wouldn't have existed without that donor funding.
And what that also does is it allows us to attract more money. So we have several grant applications that are in right now that are matching the funds that donors have provided.
I think he'd be proud of us as a family. I think he'd tell us to keep pushing ourselves and pushing our boundaries and what we're capable of doing.
he would say, don't let it go, Shell. Stay with it, stay involved to make it better, give people more options. Rick loved his life, and that's why he fought so hard for it. I actually couldn't have asked for a better life or a more beautiful life with him, just longer, more of it. That's all.
What a truly inspirational video. Thank you so much to the Baker family for the original vision to fund the Baker Center for Pancreatic Cancer, and also to the Allan family for believing in the cause and wanting to have an impact on the lives of patients with pancreatic cancer. Thank you, Julie Atchison, for doing a great job moderating our panel discussion, and to our panelists for a very insightful panel discussion on pancreatic cancer. On behalf of LHSF, we are truly excited about this transformational gift and to have this opportunity to express our gratitude to Sue Allan, her family, and her late husband, Tom Allan. Sue, through your generosity, you have displayed how your hope creates possibilities, your compassion generates strength, and your commitment builds resilience. Because you believe in what you are doing, others are able to thrive. Thank you for choosing to care. And thank you everyone for joining us for this virtual event. It is a new era of virtual events, and we hope one day to be back to in-person celebrations. But for now, thank you for joining us on this virtual platform. I also want to do a shout out to our team here at LHSF for producing and directing this live stream. I can say personally that it's no easy task, and yet the team does a great job doing this seamlessly. So thank you to the LHSF team. With that, it's a wrap, and I just want to say thank you and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you very much.